let's get to Israel. Seeing that literally Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, straight up came out and admitted that the whole reason why we went into this war in the first place is literally because of Israel, right? The Chinese oil thing is a relatively valid excuse. The Iran being a huge fucking problem for 47 years and all the death they've caused is a relatively valid excuse. But the fact that Israel struck the first strike has always put a bad taste in my fucking mouth, plus all the other propaganda. But the Secretary of fucking State straight up admitted it is Israel. I watched this earlier, twice. Twice I watched this clip earlier. Because I couldn't fucking believe it. And I wanted to watch it a second time just to make sure I wasn't just being, the thoughts being projected into my mind because of everybody saying that it's Israel's fault. No, it's true. But I'll let you, chat, decide on that.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because
the fact that he mentioned Israel, he said the U.S. or Israel. Put a pin in the fact that he said or Israel in this case. Just keep that in mind.
In fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned.
Now, you could make the argument that had they been pre-positioned and were that ready to launch means that they were getting ready to attack us regardless. You could also make the argument that because tensions have been so bad between Iran and Israel and the United States for so long, that they were really prepared for a strike ever happening, which is what he said, right? That Iran was prepared to launch counterattacks if they ever get struck by Israel or the United States, which, once again, not a fan of Iran, not really trying to defend them here, but I can't really blame them for being prepared because things have been so bad for 47 years that they keep on mentioning. So, of course, they're prepared to defend themselves if they are attacked because it's kind of been like, I know we're the boy that cried wolf when it comes to, they're weeks away from nuclear weapons, but it still is a thing that, been kind of led up. Even if beyond the whole 47 years thing, the past few months in general, right? After the strikes at nuclear base that happened last year, for example, it makes sense that they were prepared. Not defending them because they're still bad. I don't like the Muslims and I don't like Iran or anything like that, but it makes sense.
Third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
And that last part is the most important part about the whole entire thing. Is that, like, okay, so the first half of what he said, if they struck first, it would have been higher casualties. Okay, makes sense. Like, in that case, you make the argument that we should have done, like, a first strike as the, preemptive self-defense thing. But then he adds on that we knew that Israel was going to make a preemptive strike, and if we didn't also retaliate back, it would have been worse for casualties for us. That literally means that Israel dragged us into the war. They knew that Israel was going to strike, and that forced America's hand to also strike or also be worse casualties. So they couldn't tell Israel no. So then that makes me question, okay, who is the owner? Who holds the leash, right? Because if America can't tell Israel no, and Israel just does anything anyways, knowing full well that America will be forced to be dragged into this war even when we didn't want to be, which reports do show, or do tell, that Trump actually was trying his best to avoid direct war with Iran, and if Israel didn't actually, we couldn't control Israel and they still did it anyways, and our hand was forced to be involved, that means, quite literally, Israel dragged us into this war. That is so fucking infuriating. that is so upsetting to me. That we can't, like, I know Israel controls the United States. I know we're their little bitch. I know we're their little puppet. So the fact that we can't actually say no to them is not that surprising. But at least for the longest time, we were acting like that wasn't the case. But the fact that we can't tell them no, and we got dragged into the space of Israel, I mean, it's so upsetting. I mean, and then this is where the whole talk I had with my dad earlier about, I brought up the fact that Israel dragged us into the war, and then he spent 5 minutes defending Israel. It's like, how I don't get how you can do that. How you can defend Israel. It's like it's like a friend who constantly causes trouble for you, constantly getting drunk, getting in car accidents, crying and needing money all the time, constantly leeching off of you. What do you get in return? What's the benefit of Israel? Okay, military. We have a military base in the Middle East. Okay, why do we need a military base in the Middle East? Oh, because the Middle East is constantly at war with us. Well, okay, why do we are constantly at war in the Middle East? Oh, it's because the UK carved out Israel from Palestine. They're really pissed at us for stepping in there. And now Israel, and they really don't like the Jews because they're conflict of religions. So now we have to be Israel's little defender, and but like, so that's why we need a military. That's why we need a base in the Middle East. I guess you could maybe use the oil argument as well, but I feel like with how we have relatively friendly relations with Saudi Arabia, we wouldn't need Israel. So yeah, not great. Now the benefit is that there is a silver lining to what Rubio is saying here. Right, as upsetting as it is that Israel literally dragged us into the war, the silver lining is, well, they admitted it. They're being honest about the situation. We can everybody's been labeled a crazy conspiracy theorist who has Israel derangement syndrome, who is constantly saying Israel's dragging us into anything. We're the little bitch. Like people like me and many others in chat and in various places, right? Can now say that we are right. We are justified in this case, which is a good thing because we're no longer crazy conspiracy theorists that does like to wear tinfoil hats. It is 100% completely confirmed that it's Israel's fault in the case of the war starting. And it hopefully will wake up. It might not make them super, might not make the normies have the J question on their minds or anything like that. But hopefully that will make some people who were teetering on it or, questioning some different things or, or at least wake some people up on the fact that Israel has bit control over us in particular, and it's Israel's fault. And that will that's a good thing because more anti-Israel sentiment, in my opinion, is better. I know the left is a good chunk of that, and their reasoning is completely different to the rights. But all I'm saying is there's a split in the right between people who are anti-Israel and those are pro-Israel. And hopefully this will get some people on the pro-Israel side to go anti-Israel with the Trump administration literally saying that it is Israel's fault. And that's a win. Like actually some people are arguing this is like 40 chess that Rubio is doing here by admitting that it's Israel because of that. That way we can the anti-Israel sentiment does grow. Now, does it really help anything? Because if the politicians in charge don't actually do anything about it, not particularly. But it is leading towards something. At least that's how it feels like it's doing online. It's leading towards something happening where a change can happen because between the left and the right having such severe Israel fatigue, they don't really have any favors other than the boomers, and the boomers are unfortunately close to their deathbeds, which doesn't take me any pleasure to say, seeing that my dad's a literal boomer himself. But they're not going to have any friends left if they keep this up. The silver lining that's also not silver lining at the same time is that could be just an excuse to help protect Trump, basically take the heat off of him and say it's not his fault we're going to war with Iran because it is so unpopular. Even though he says he doesn't care about polling, they can be like, okay, well, it wasn't Trump that started it. Though I really don't think that that's a good excuse personally myself, because that makes Trump look weak. The fact that we can't control Israel and then our hands being forced to do their bidding because they help reducing casualties does make sense, but it doesn't really make Trump in a good position because he still can't control Israel because Israel's supposed to be our lapdog, not the other way around. And a lot of normies and Americans are still going to see it as Trump starting it. Well, pressing buttons, regardless of the case, just because he's the president, right? He's the president when this happened, and so therefore it's his fault. So it's definitely a very interesting situation that Rubio has put on our plates. It's frustrating because it confirms exactly what a lot of people, including me, have been saying, but it's also good because at least they're honest about it. Trump is making the best of a bad situation. It does seem like he didn't, but based off the reports that I've been reading, and I might have tabs about it, he was quite reluctant to go into this war. I mean, for fuck's sakes, there's a post that he used to make. I don't know what the date is because it got cut off of the screenshot. But he talked about how Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. This sounds familiar. But I can't remember if it was the past year or this. I'm assuming it's past year because it's too social, right? So he's already tried to warn Israel once. Stop doing this. Didn't really work out the second time.